Hi viewers, and welcome to the channel and welcome to the course Understanding FreeCAD. We are on lesson 2 and we are still in the part design workbench. We're still keeping in there, but we're following a master sketch workflow. We'll be creating a multi-body project using one sketch as a reference template. We'll be creating a very simple multi-body object to learn and understand how to use this workflow. Each of the bodies is a separate part which we will assemble together. We'll only briefly stay in the assembly workbench just to place those parts together. It is not the main focus of our workflow, but in later lessons we will go deeper into assembly workbenches and how to use those for animations and simulations. In this video we're going to look at how to use a master sketch to create a very simple spool holder. So this is what I've created. I haven't put much detail in here, it's just to get an understanding of the process. So each of these parts are a separate body and they've all been created from one sketch. So this is the sketch they've been created from. If you come from a Fusion 360 background, then this will probably look familiar to you because you'll create a sketch like this and then extrude the parts, picking parts from the geometry and either using extrusions or pockets from there, where FreeCAD uses a more sketch on face route. It doesn't have that ability, but we do have this master sketch process. So I have this master sketch here, which is all the dimensions basically from a profile view of that piece. We then use that in our spool body, our support body and our base body, which means that if anything changes in the sketch, say for instance I change the diameter of the spool, hit close, it gets reflected throughout the parts themselves. So I'm going to come back into that sketch and just change that back to 200, and that's changed something like this height here to 150, and close that, and you can see how that's changed and taken effect there. So let's have a look how we do this in FreeCAD and learn about the technique. If you like these videos, please subscribe. I also have a Ko-Fi or Coffee donation page and a Patreon where you can get extra content. The links for those pages can be found in the video description. Any kind donations will be reinvested back into the channel and to expand that further in the same subject matter to bring more quality, quantity, and to fund some future projects that I have in mind that I only can do with your kind donations. So we're in FreeCAD and I'm going to jump over the sketcher to create our master sketch. And all this is going to be, if I create a new sketch in here and go along the ZX plane, we're looking at creating a spool to hold some line or some string that we can store it on a shelf somewhere. Now I don't know the dimensions of the spool, so we're going to be roughing this out in the master sketch, and this is what a master sketch is for. You create your view from one side of the whole assembly and then you use that and reference it in your other sketches. So we create a circle for the spool, and I'm going to say I want this 200 millimeters. So we put the dimensions in here. This is important that we add the dimensions to our master sketch so we understand what we're looking at and how this is going to sit together. Now for the stand, I'm going to create two triangular pieces. So I'm going to need a circle in here, and this will hold the bar that goes through here. So a bar will pass it through here that will attach this spool to the stand. So I'm going to set the diameter of here. Now I may know mid bar diameter, and I'm going to say it's 50 millimeters. So now I get an idea of how this is going to attach. So the spool is going to be a circle with a hole in it that's 50 millimeters, and the bar is going to go through here. So I can create my other part of the stand now, and I'm going to put a circle in here. And we're going to set the diameter of this circle. So click on the circle, go to the diameter, and we're going to set it to something like 80 millimeters. Now I'm going to create the lines that come down for the stand. So I'll get an idea of, when I start attaching these lines, how far from the bottom the clearance of the stand should be for a 200mm reel. Click and click. Escape that. Now they are sitting on there at the moment. This one is tangent to here, which is what I want. So I'm just going to delete that and add that one again. So that point and this circle, I'm going to make them tangent. And this point and this circle, we're going to do the same, make that tangent. So the tangent constraints on there. So they will follow that curvature of that circle. I'm going to also click on these two and place a horizontal constraint against those so they line up horizontally. So when I move these, they move like so. I can now position these in the correct place. And I'm going to create a line between these 2 points using the line tool and just connect up these 2 points like so. Making sure our auto constraints are on. Let's put a horizontal constraint in there. So now what we have, press escape. If I move this up and down, I can position this at the correct point, and my constraints are working with me to get this in the position that I want. Now I may want to put some kind of mechanism in here that will stop this spool from turning when it's not in use. So I can add that, say by creating a block here and creating some kind of pin to stop this, and we'll put some kind of mechanism in there to actually stop this. So I want a bit of clearance from there, so I would come over to the square tool and actually add that in there like so, and I can actually start creating some kind of mechanism in here. But I'm not going to go into that, I'm just going to keep it simple. So I'm just going to Control Z that and remove that from there. We've got this now. This is the side piece. Now I want to create some kind of block here that this will sit on, so we can get an idea of that. So I'm looking at, depending how I want this connected, do I want to just see something like this from the side and the block being in here, or do I want this sitting on top of the block and the block actually coming down here? So for aesthetic purposes, I'm going to create a line going across here. So this is where our block will be that this will sit on. So remember, this is looking from the side. So this is the block that will sit along here. And I'm going to set the height of these on here. So from here to here, I'm going to set the height. That's 17mm. I'm going to go for 20. So you can see how we're starting to rough this out. Now I still can adjust the height of this. So do I want it just clear, so this spool, just clear of here? Am I going to add anything else to this spool? I don't think so, so I'm going to go for that height there. So I can set my height now from this point and this center point. I'm going to place a height in. That's 130mm. And we'll push this out to the left and this one to the right. And we'll just push this up. So we're just separating off these measurements so we know whereabouts they are. I'm not worried about trimming these. I don't have to trim them. It's a master sketch. We don't have to worry about fully constraining the model. It's best to, but at the end of the day, it's up to us. If we fully constrain this and we know that nothing's going to move, because we're going to clone this and we don't really want anything to move. Now we can cheat and click all these like so and just use the block constraint against those, and that will block constrain them down. Because it's just a master sketch, we're not worried about the types of constraints that we're using on here. So that's the master sketch complete. So this is from the side and this is what we'll be creating. So we can close that now, and our master sketch sits here. We can see that, and this will be basically the profile from the side of what we're building. Now we can come over to the part design and start creating a body, and we'll create a sketch in here. But first of all, we'll create a body, go back, and we've got this sketch here, but we can't reference this sketch from outside of this body, so we're going to have to clone it in here. Let me show you. Click on the body, come into tasks, create the sketch in there, and we want it along this plane, so the same plane as we've done this sketch in here, the ZX plane. If I hit OK, I'm in my sketch now, it's open. If I try to import the geometry, create an edge linked to external geometry, then I'll roll over this, you can see the object belongs to another body, can't link. So we're going to have to create a clone of this. So we actually clone this sketch in. We don't use the clone from here, create a new clone, because what I will do, if I click on the sketch, hit clone, it's cloning the body, and we don't want to do that. We use a different clone. I could move this sketch into this body and reference it that way, but I want to keep this sketch outside because I'm going to be creating multiple bodies for individual parts. So we create the sketch outside the body and create multiple bodies for all those parts. Or we can link this to new documents and create the bodies that way, still using that sketch outside. So the main document, this one here, will have the master sketch in, and our other documents will reference this sketch. So this is the whole master sketch workflow. To create a clone of this sketch, we need to come over to the draft workbench, because the tool exists there. So come into the draft, and along the toolbar you'll see the clone icon, this little sheep here. Creates a clone of selected objects. Also up in modification, clone, you can actually clone that sketch. So make sure it's selected and hit clone. That's cloned that 2D sketch there. We now drag this because it's not inside this body. If we close out the body, you see it's not inside there. Drag it into the body. So it sits inside the body along with the other sketch. We can now double click the sketch and start referencing these objects. So if I click on this geometry, you can see at the moment it's still saying the object belongs to another body. Let's come over to the model, and what's actually happening is that this sketch here is interfering. So click on it, press the space bar. You may have to hit escape first to get the mouse pointer back. Click on the sketch, it's better. Hit the space bar, that makes that sketch invisible. Now when we come into the sketch and use the geometry, create an edge link to external geometry, and we start rolling over this, you can see it's been highlighted in yellow. And we can click on that and pull that in, like so. So at the moment, I'm creating the flywheel. So I've just pulled in that wheel. So we're in this main body, we've created the flywheel. And all I'm going to do is create a circle, like so. Connect it to the center, bring it out, hit escape, click on the circle, click on the external geometry that I've brought in, and make that an equality constraint. So that's created an equality constraint between those. So what will happen if I close this, that sketch is sitting there. Let's hide this 2D sketch, that sketch is sitting there. If I go back to my original sketch and find this circle here, which is the 200mm diameter circle, if I change that to something like 250, it will move outside of here. But when I close, that sketch has changed. If I bring back the clone sketch, you can see how that has changed and it's conformed to that clone. So this is the beauty of a master sketch. We can change our original plan and allow all the other sketches to recompute and update to that clone. Let's go back in that sketch and, well, first of all, let's go back to the original sketch and change that back to 200. We're back to normal, close that, and we're back. So we've got the sketch open. So I'm going to double click the sketch and I'm going to bring in some other geometry here. So I'm going to bring in this inner circle. So using the create an edge link to external geometry, also available on sketch geometry, external geometry there. And I'm going to pull in this circle here. And this is going to be the hole. So again, I'm going to create a circle in here. Click on the circle click on the outer sketch and do an equality against those. So I've created now the spool, or the start of the spool. If I wanted to, I could do this as a revolve. I could bring in this geometry and start cutting the geometry, but we're just going to keep it simple and just create a simple extrude with this. So if I hit close now and hide this sketch here, we've got this here. We're still in the draft workbench. What I'm going to do is come over and just take that grid away, hide that grid. And I'm going to come over to the part design and I'm just going to extrude that sketch. So I'm going to click on the sketch and so click on the pad and decide how far I want to pad this. So I'm going to go around about 50 millimeters. Going to keep it symmetrical to plane. It's up to you what you want to select from here. So that's what I'm going to select for that one. So we've got the start of our spool. Obviously I need to section out this section in here with a groove or some kind of pocket in here. But this is just to get an idea of the master sketch workflow. So let's bring back the sketch and look see what we've got. So we've got those at the moment. We can see how it's sitting there. Matter of fact, I'm going to bring back that pad and take the symmetry to plane off and just put it reverse at the moment so it's sitting behind there, and OK that. Now I'm going to work on these parts here. So for that I need a new body. So create a new body. So body 001. And we can do the same. We can create a sketch inside this body. So at the moment it's outside. And I'm just going to clone this again into that body. So come over to the draft. And click on that sketch. And again come over and create the clone. Drop that clone into that body. And we can start working on that. Might be worth renaming the bodies as well. Rename. And call this one spool, and this one is going to be support. So right click, rename, and change this one to support. Come back into the part design, and we've got that body sitting there at the moment. It's active, it's bold. If it's not, just right click, toggle active body, or we can double click and they will become active that way. So see that one's active. Click on that body. You can either come over to tasks or use the create a new sketch from there, and we'll create a new sketch, and we're looking along this plane here, so we want to be using this as a sketch element to pull in. So click on the ZX plane again and hit OK. Now at this time you may want to come into the model, come up to the original body and press spacebar to hide that. Make sure if you go inside the body you want to hide this sketch as well, otherwise it's going to start interfering. So click on it, press the spacebar, that will hide that sketch. We're now going to work with this sketch here. So just collapse your spool body and we can start working with this sketch. Now I want to put import some geometry again, so use the create an edge, link to external geometry, and start importing this edge, and the bottom edge, and we're going to take the top as well and work with those just for the time being. Now I can use that to virtually trace against, so I'm going to place a line that connects up here. And we're going to do the same with this one and the same with this one. And now I need a curve. It's showing it's over constrained at the moment. So let's come into tasks and you see it's over constrained. Please remove at least one of the constraints. So let's click on this one here and just delete that. So this one, hit delete, that's better. Sometimes it will constrain to parts of geometry, just find them and just delete that. Now we need a 3-point arc, and that's this tool here. Normally when you come in, it's on this arc. Just drop this down and use the endpoint and rim point, and we'll just click, and just create that so it's tangent to that arc there. You can see it's fully constrained there. And I'm going to bring into geometry again, and I'm going to select this circle here, and again use the circle inside here like so, and then just click on the circle and that outer circle and create an equality constraint against there. Fully constrained, nice and clean. All of the sizes and dimensions are hidden over in our other sketch, our master sketch, and we've got a nice clean sketch to deal with. Hit close and we'll pad that. Now we may want to do it in the reverse direction, so I'm going to come over to the model, bring back the support body. It just gives you an idea of where this is placed, so that's fine. So if we take that pad, what we've just done over in tasks, increase this to something like 20 millimeters, you can see that's been padded forward in that direction. If it hasn't, then you hit reverse, it comes forward. But it's up to you. These are going to be put together separately anyway. We can cut these out or print them on our 3D printer. It'll be up to you how you want to actually output this. So we've got the supporting body, we've got the spool. Now we can move on to the base. So again, come in, hide these, create a new body, sits there, click on the sketch, come over to the draft and create a clone. Move that clone into the body. So we've cloned the sketch, hide these two, making sure that if you come into the supporting body, that sketch is hidden as well, otherwise we'll try to reference the sketch and we'll get nowhere because it's in another body. I'll show you that now. If I bring back that sketch, pressing the space bar so it's not hidden, click on this body, come up to tasks. Let's go back to the part design workbench, be a good idea. There we go, tasks, create sketch there, because I've clicked on the body, create sketch here, or come over to task, create sketch. And we want this plane here, which is the XZ plane, okay. If I try to reference this now, it may complain. You can see it's saying the object belongs to another body down the bottom left hand side. And that's because we've got this sketch available here. So just click on it and press the space bar. You won't be able to click on it at the moment because we've got our tool selected. So hit escape, click and hit escape. There we go. And get the mouse pointer back and we'll click on that sketch, press the space bar. And now we can come in and click on the geometry. Also making sure that we've got the other sketch hidden as well, this one here. That's better. Now we can select that. Should be able to. There we go, you can see them highlighted in yellow. Now this is the base, so I want this line and this line brought in. And we can create lines against those. So I'm going to use the create a polyline in the sketch and click on that point, connect up, and you can see they're going green. Connect up like so. All done, hit escape to get your mouse pointer back, or click and hit escape and come over to tasks. We can see, go down, we can see the geometry that we've brought in. So we've brought in the two lines, they're in purple. So I'll bring this down, external, you see the two lines are in purple, purple dots at the end, and the normal geometry is the four lines we placed in, all, you can see them all there. So we're all constrained up, ready to go. Hit close, and we can hide this sketch, this cloned sketch, press the space bar, and we're going to pad this. So I'm going to bring back the support body and the spool body. We can see our sketch is sitting there. and we can pad that. First of all, we need to click the sketch and pad that. So I'm going to the reverse direction, and I can see that I can send this way around about 100 millimeters, a bit too much, 80 millimeters. Let's try 60. There we go. And we can then clone this over the other side. But what we've got, once we finish that, we've got 3 separate bodies for the individual parts that we can use in an assembly. We can place this in assembly. So for instance, we can come over to our A2 Plus and pull these in here. So I'm just going to rename this to support. Well, it's actually the base, isn't it? Base. Body. So we've got all those there. We want the individual parts because we either want to print them individually or we want to cut them individually on a CNC machine. Obviously we need some more detail in here, but now we've got the base in here, we can do that. This one's going to be duplicated up to place on this side. So we've got all those there. What I can do is come in and create a new file and save this file, save as, and we'll call this one spool assembly. And we need to save this one as well. So this one here, file, save as, call this spool parts. And then depending on what workbench we're using, so I've got this A2 Plus workbench and the Assembler 4 installed. So for instance, I use the A2 Plus quite a bit. This is available on Tools, Add-on Manager, and you can actually install it from there. And if we in the spool assembly, so we're in this one, we can actually start bringing in the bodies. So add shapes from external file, spool parts, open, and we can pick our shapes in here, individual shapes, import them like so, and let's place them like so, and we can use these to assemble against. So my base is going to be fixed position of true, which it is at the moment. These should be fixed position of false, and we can start clicking on parts of this. So for instance, click on that edge and this edge and place them on axis, set that, and we can move this one into position like so, and just slide it into position. It's just to get an idea of what this will look like. We can pull another one of these in by just using the import and spool parts, open, and which one do we want? We want the support and support body, import, and we'll bring this around this side. Let's just dump this down here, and we will click this one and the inside edge of here, circle and circle, accept, and also this edge and this edge, axis, accept, and we'll just move that one down into position. And we can use this one and this one and create an axis on that one to make sure they're lined up, and the same on this side as well. Set that. So you can see straight away we can put something like this together, and if I have a look, we can see we've got some problems here. We've got a bit of gapping in here, so depending on how far I want this away, I should put a rod through here as well. Now I can alter this, create offsets, etc. Add rods in here, add bearings, etc. But that shows you the workflow of that master sketch. If I go back to it, so file, recent files, and spool parts, you can see we've got everything there. We can transform these if we so desire. So we can cut these individually, create a technical drawing, or place this on a CNC machine ready to go. So I hope that's helped with understanding the Master Sketch workflow and how you would use it for assemblies and roughing out your models, and then take that further with creating that parts, assembling them, or even just creating those individual parts ready for CNC, ready for 3D print, or just creating a technical drawing. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you again soon. If you like what you're seeing, please subscribe to the site. I also have a Ko-Fi or a coffee site that you can donate to if you so desire, and that's at ko-fi.com/MANG0. I also run a Patreon where you can subscribe and get extra content, and that's at www.patreon.com/MangoJellySolutions. Any money that's kindly donated will be used to expand the channel. Thanks a lot for watching and subscribing, and I'll see you again soon.